Welcome to another episode of New Ways of Being. And with me today, I have my guest, Patricia Albere. And we are here to talk about a project that we are both participating in. I'm leading the effort to create a book that, and the title may change, but it's basically, we can change the world. And we can do that by raising our consciousness. So my subtitle will be something else. And as the primary input into that is, I've invited a series of people who are very knowledgeable about consciousness and about awakening and about how we can participate in the world in more effective ways. And Patricia is one of those. And so this will be a part of that book. And we are going to focus today on that topic, how we can change the world by raising our consciousness. But first, before we dive in, I'd like to read her bio. And she's got this incredible background in spiritual development and spiritual teaching, but in recent years, very much focused on the evolution of consciousness. Patricia Albere is the founder of the Evolutionary Collective and the best-selling author of the book, Evolutionary Relationships, Unleashing the Power of Mutual Awakening. For the past 50 years, she has helped hundreds of thousands transform their lives and consciousness. Unlike the traditional path of solitary awakening, Patricia experienced a rare, sustained awakening with another person, a unitive realization that points to a new dimension of consciousness and an extraordinary possibility for humanity's future. Today, she brings the transmission, practices, and living reality of awakening into shared unity, creating a powerful field of consciousness and love that takes us far beyond personal growth and into the future of human evolution. So again, welcome, Patricia. Say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And yeah, it's been quite a journey, to put it mildly.
Okay, but you have that incredible history and all that experience of what you've done as a teacher of consciousness and spiritual growth.
Yeah.
But we're not going to spend any time focusing on that history, even though it's fascinating. And I did that in a different podcast, Our Spiritual Life, several years ago, when I interviewed and we talked about a lot of your past experience and how that was showing up with you in the world then. But I want to focus now on what's showing up for you in the world right now. About a year and a half ago, I think it was, I took a course from you in mutual awakening and became much more aware of what you're doing in that, because in that course, we actually practiced that to an extent. And so I knew that in this book, I had to get you involved to talk about. And when we talk about awakening and consciousness today, I really believe that we are in the midst of at least the beginning stages of the evolution of human consciousness, right?
Do you want to ask me?
Well, yes, I want to ask you.
I see it differently.
Go ahead and tell us how you see it differently.
Yeah. For the last, since 1971, when I was 18, that there was a period of time where consciousness and working on yourself and transformation and breath work and, every kind of way of working on oneself, which is one's consciousness, There's all kinds of meditation retreats and stuff. We think that's the way it is. That was not normal 50 years ago.
Right.
That wasn't even normal 30 years ago. Maybe 30 years ago, it started to get normal. Okay.
Right.
So there have been people working on their consciousness with, ayahuasca, with all kinds of stuff, there's so many ways in tapping, different kinds of modalities. And what I discovered, what started to really get clear to me about 16 years ago, when I stopped doing personal work, like I just didn't have it in me to keep working on people's personal growth, adventure, even their consciousness. I'd worked with thousands and thousands of people, and I was just kind of like, there's got to be something else. There's got to be something more than everybody's journey and sensitivity and their root chakra and, all of the various things that we're
Right.
very aware of.
Right.
And so I got a group of people, 16, I guess it was 16 years ago, and they knew me, so they figured they wouldn't be wasting their time if they spent the weekend with me in the Hamptons, focusing on something other than their stuff. I said, the only thing you got to do is if you're going to do this weekend, you have to be willing to not make it all about you. And they were like, okay. So we began something. And, one of the things that Teilhard de Chardin, who's a Jesuit priest, who I'm sure the people that listen to you probably know who he is. And he always said that evolution is groping. So if you're really on the edge of evolution, you're always kind of going, you have to be willing to not know, to not have it in a quadrant, to not have it all figured out. It's like the whole idea that we have mentally that we know a lot of everything does not allow you to keep going in where evolution is taking us.
Right.
So we were groping, we were, discovering like there's something different here. And I had also had, before I did this, a 4-year relationship with a very mystical man who we were very much in love, but we were really in a different kind of a zone than just being in love, even though that's really good. We were both very devoted to something else, something more than just life. We didn't watch TV, we were just like, glued together. And we were in a different domain. So part of what we experienced was being two as one. And I didn't even know that was possible. I knew it was possible to be really related to people and to make a difference with people and to, do all kinds of things, transform other, be with people in a way that they transform and heal and whatever. But this two is one where you experience something like a more divine part of yourself, a more particular part of yourself that's not your ego, but it's also not your soul. Like we don't realize how the soul is also it's incarnated into the matrix of the earth. And it's pretty heavy. Do you know what I mean? It has a lot of, DNA and your family and your history. And, if somebody was an alcoholic or, all of that is like in the DNA, in the body, and also in your history.
Okay.
And this was something else. Like we were somewhere else. We were two very normal people, and we were because of this oneness that kept building and building, where I experienced my own experience. I always experienced his experience. And there was something bigger that was always with us. Like we'd wake up and look around and go, okay, we're there. Wherever we are, we're somewhere else. Yeah, go ahead.
So, but it sounds like you didn't do anything specifically to allow this to happen, except the allowing, perhaps the allowing itself.
Well, we were the amount of love and the amount of divinity that was just present because it was us. It just it took over. I mean, there was no thinking about it. There was no, I mean, one of the things, Raymond, that changes, and that's really I'm very clear about now in teaching and working with people is the strategic quality. Like what you just asked was strategically, you didn't do
Right,
anything. Like what, what did you do?
right,
And it was like, no, we didn't do anything.
right,
It wasn't anything like that. And I didn't realize that that was part of the future. So there's a couple of big things that are missing in people's normal way of seeing consciousness. That if we have more consciousness and more love, it's all gonna, it's gonna be better. Evolution is huge. So if you don't know that evolution has different stages, then you don't know what you're swimming in. And you are swimming in whatever evolutionary wave, whatever is being given as a possibility is the only thing that you can do at that time. So, back 3,000 years ago, there was only power over.
right.
Religion was even based in that. Do you know what I mean? Like there was a certain kind of, and slaves and, bloodlines and all of those things were the way it was. It wasn't good or bad. It just was like, that's what you're living in. Whatever your bloodline was determined your life. So if you had a bloodline that supposedly was divine, then you had to make sure that kept going. And if you were a female in that situation, you got married off to whoever was the right person for the bloodline.
Mm.
That's not what happens now. Bloodlines are not, but
Right.
there's still a lot of that particular evolutionary wave. So when you understand, like I'm just completing a course that I taught, very simple, called Evolutionary Eyes, because that takes people through, because if you can't see what's really going on, you don't know what's going on, and you don't know what you're aligned with as an automatic way of being because of the evolutionary frequencies that are there. So it's been interesting, both teaching that and then helping to unpeel some of the automatic, like I'm going to have non-dual awakening and that's going to help and this thing and this, but it doesn't necessarily change things because that's the eighth wave. That's a certain wave of consciousness that's been around for about 30 years. It's not new. And it's not going to take you into the next place. As you can see, people get almost pretty narcissistic.
Right.
It doesn't make you egoless.
So, yeah, so
Funny thing.
evolution
Yeah,
is going through some kind of stages and growth and
that's what it
expansion.
does. That's what it
And
does.
and right now there are a lot of spiritual people who talk about or even observers of humanity, or that
Right.
we're at a tipping point or a threshold of, and it has
Something.
to be about consciousness. Talk about that a bit, because so
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is I'm sort of annoyingly, things are very distinct for me. You have to be just, that's my particular gift is I'm here to make things as clear as possible and as refined as possible in a sort of, a place where most people aren't going to be interested.
hmm,
I have relatives that created the first car company in America and,
oh,
spoke about women's rights in 1838, the more heretic types. So I'm okay with that. I I'm okay. This higher wave, which, like I said, almost nobody's going to be interested in because it's not about them. And what evolution, to do the short version, evolution gave us minds 6,000 years ago. Before that, we were kind of, animal, human, kind of floaty, peaceful, not minds. And the moment we got a download of having compartmentalized minds, we started, even though we're still pretty animal human, and we still are animal human. I don't think anybody would argue with that. We're not particularly enlightened. As soon as that happened, we started building pyramids. We started, the pharaoh was in charge. There was writing. There were straight lines. There are no straight lines in nature. None. And people prior to that didn't have the idea to put animals in like a pen because they couldn't think boundaries. It wasn't in their head. They could not think boundary. So numbers, all of what has occurred, all of civilization, which is so huge, that every single thing that we are talking about, that we're in, that the food we walk through, buildings, AI, everything has been created by the mind and civilization in this last 6,000 years. Human beings, have had the journey, the wonderful, exciting journey of discovering being an individual. Because before that, you really weren't. I mean, think about it. 5,000 years ago, you were just like serving whoever you were serving and not, and dying when you were 20. It was very basic. And now, you ride around in your car, at least in the Western world, and a lot of in the Eastern world as well. And you stop and get a chai dirty latte with soy milk. And, the car knows what you want to listen to. I mean, it's unbelievable. The individuation that we have and that we have created is astounding. However, we're at the peak of developing it being all about you and being sensitive and your roots, every kind of thing you're aware of. I mean, most of the people we know, they're very aware of themselves.
Right.
Because they're in the eighth wave. They're in a particular wave of evolution. The ones that are in a different wave are more religious. They're more, they're focusing on different things. So if you don't have the evolutionary piece, you can't really see what's going on.
Right.
I've discovered.
Right.
And that's it. Since you worked with us, I realized people have to understand that first, because otherwise you don't understand mutual awakening. Right. You don't understand that when you become two as one, that's when you can walk through the portal into a different reality. It's not just a consciousness thing or a we space practice. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with what's most clear and most exciting, I think, is that the future is not when, it's where. You go someplace else.
Really? Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
You go someplace, you're literally in a different reality. And you're kind of in a liminal state. So you're still in this reality, but you get to be more and more in the reality that is coming into existence. But it can take 100 years.
Right.
This isn't something that, you and I are going to get to see in its full flower before our bodies, aren't here.
Yeah. So I'm aware of a reference that you made there to the eighth wave, and that we're moving into the ninth wave.
Well, we're only people who are paying attention, because it's very invisible.
Okay. So that evolution is not in any way driving people or forcing people to
Not
evolve
at
in
all.
consciousness.
Nope, not at all.
But so it's a new wave of evolution. How, describe it some more.
Yeah,
How do we how do we think about that?
yeah. No, that's a good question. Um, it's easy to get people to do things in the eighth wave because it's still all about them. There's another technique, there's another way to develop themselves. It's self-offering. Dr. Robert Keegan, you've heard of him?
Yeah, but I
He's
can't.
Harvard. He's the Harvard professor who talks about adult development, that adults develop just like babies and children do. And that a lot of people don't even think about that, the fact that we develop. And the eighth wave, or what we were speaking about, is very self-authoring. And the word kind of gives you, you're authoring yourself, you're authoring your own story, you're authoring your life. You have your own table that has spiritually what you feel attuned to, a candle for this, a something for that.
Right,
So you go on retreats that feel right to you. Do you know what I mean? So everything is very self-authoring. And it's fun, it's also, I mean, it's very healing, it can be very useful, but it's also, it's exciting. But you have to kind of either get to the end of it or you need to see the world the way it is, because if we don't move beyond even that, I mean, if you've ever tried to like do something with a bunch of people that are functioning from there,
right,
they're just as crazy as anybody else. Do you know what I mean? Like if you try to live in some community with a bunch of very self-authoring, awake people, it's not easy.
right. So you're saying that a new kind of human being is coming into existence.
You got
Uh,
it.
yeah.
Yes.
S-
Yes.
And
Beyond
is
the human species.
and and how does a person move into that? I mean, can we choose to move into that, or does it choose
Yeah.
us?
Well, no, it's not individual anymore. So the big key is, instead of everything was about your individual development and growth and journey for thousands of years, and we have done really well. We're, high five to humanity, to much of humanity. I mean, there are obviously billions of people that are still just barely surviving.
Right,
But, we have reached certain pinnacles, but it's still all about you. Self-authoring is still all about you and your success and your development and your 3 steps into, you know, activating certain things. So the what happens is with the further going further has to do with entering in together. You can't do it by yourself. It's not about self-reflection. So all of our development has been about being able to think and think about ourselves and self-reflect and think about and develop ideas, right? This is the opposite. This is about going into, I realized, like where I had gone with Peter, like we were in one space. We
right,
were one. Like I always knew where he was. He always knew where I was. Like it was like there was something that was always transparent. And the only way you can enter into like really where the future is going is you've got to go together. And when you go into the space together, and it's not about, well, how are you experiencing? What are you okay? And am I okay? And we're listening compassion. That's not it. That's still the eighth wave. You have to, like you and I, we kind of fall in. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, we're somewhere else. You know, we're somewhere else. And then it starts showing itself. And it's not personal. It's not all about you or all about me. Go
Okay,
ahead.
but is it a unity of consciousness?
Yeah.
It is in consciousness, right? So,
Well, it's in consciousness, but we're discovering we have like 70 people that are in a living body of unity. We're committed to um, being inside together, some very awake people that are incredible. And when you're in that together as one, which is a big deal. I mean, getting two people to do anything is a problem,
right,
right?
right,
So we have 70 people that are like in something. And it is developing by being one body. We're discovering, we are experiencing different things. It's too much to talk about here, but it's really extraordinary.
right.
And for me, I know that's my job, is to keep developing that instead of just trying to get lots of people to pay attention to something,
Right.
because the level they'll do it at is usually more superficial and more the way it already is.
So it's a what you're doing right now, what you just said, it's a unity of consciousness and also a unity of embodiment of
Yeah.
that consciousness. You know,
Yeah.
I see a relationship to beingness, which I understand is it's important to
Yeah.
be more fully present and
Yeah. All that
fully
stuff is good.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
But
this is
that is the last 30 years. I mean, being present, walking consciously, meditating, do you know what I mean? All of those things have
right.
enabled people to be more awake, more attuned, so that the people that then come forward, that are paying attention, they're like, they can do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so
it's
you're saying
it's
that
it's a big deal.
there's a wave of humanity that is it's not the whole of humanity, or
Yeah, it's
and
not.
it sounds like you don't see it ever getting to that point where it would be the whole of humanity.
Well, there's another little piece that's missing is, I mean, obviously, when I was born in the 1950s, there were 2.5 billion people.
Right.
Do you know how many there are now?
It's 8 point something, I know, billion.
8.5.
Wow.
8.5 billion people. I mean, it's insane. So, the thing to know is that when you learn more about the evolution and kind of what things are coming, when you're born makes a difference. So you and I were born in the seventh wave. We were born in the wave of democracy and science and cars and machines and flying to the moon, and all of those things were in that chunk. Progress. I actually thought progress was going to keep going. Oh well. So that's that now. The babies that are being born, like since around 2012, so some of them are what, 13, 14? They are being born on a different frequency.
Mhm.
They
Okay.
really are.
So I have to
Now,
ask a
yeah,
question.
it will be different when they're, yeah.
Um, so one of the people that I've learned quite a bit from is a cosmologist, Dr. Jude Currivan,
Yeah, I
and
know
she
Jude.
she talks about that the evolution of the universe, because it is consciousness, it evolution is purposeful, and we could say it in terms of God, that God is
Mhm.
the intelligence that is driving the evolution of the universe, including all sentient beings
Right.
and including human beings, right?
Mhm.
So you know, is this ninth wave a part of that? Is it guided,
Yeah,
purposeful evolution?
the thing is that the next level of human, the best we can be is sort of the in-between guys, right? We
Right.
can be mutants at best. And we can be, when you have more permission to not have to be like a normal person, it helps. So, what were you asking about her? So she says what?
Well, she says that the evolution of that the universe is a unitive entity. It is one
Mhm.
thing. It is evolving, and it is evolving purposefully, and
Yes,
it has meaning in its own existence. So, I kind of think of that as that
I agree with
imp-
that.
that intelligence is guiding the evolution and how it happens. And so this
Well,
this ninth wave that's opened up is allowing a new kind of evolution to occur, right?
right. Yeah. But what I would say rather than intelligence, I would say divinity.
Divinity, exactly.
Divinity is so in anything, anything that's brilliant. I was talking to somebody who's a Olympic person. When you see people do things like on an Olympic level, or you see Billie Jean King play, or
Right,
or
right,
someone dance, at
right,
like Nureyev, it's divine. I mean, even for them, when they come out of it, they're kind of like, they're also coming back in because something takes over. So divinity is the most successful, it's the most powerful, it's the most beautiful, it's the most brilliant that ever can be. And
right,
the world thinks, well, divinity is like this thing on the menu that's kind of over here. It's something extra.
yep,
We're focused on being on survival. We're focused on strategic and the important things and the more, human,
right,
what do you call it? Survival, basically.
right. Yes,
Self-preservation and instinct and all that stuff. And what the ninth wave actually is, because there aren't waves after that, supposedly, is this divinity. And that's what's so different about what most people are working on in trying to become more evolved and more whole, is whatever that is, there's a purity and there's something that isn't there anymore. So the whole battle of good and evil, the endless battle of good and
right,
evil,
yep,
which started 6,000 years ago,
right.
or 5,500. That is over.
So,
It's just over. Do you know what I mean? Like, it isn't part of the ninth wave. It's not part of where we are in that oneness together. We are being orchestrated by something different. The whole journey before that is free will, learn through experience, forgive yourself, forgive them, learn, 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 learn. That's over. And the only people that can really access it now are people that are willing for that to be over, or to be at least in that process of it being over. Because, how fascinating are you? It's kind of like when we think about ourselves, we're sort of
right,
endlessly fascinated,
right.
and you kind of have to get over that.
But the universe is in the ninth wave. The divinity is inviting people to
To,
participate.
to begin to participate, but you have to realize that there are like webs. It's like we're inside a
Yeah.
webs,
Yes.
literally, that have to keep getting pulled off. So one trick is, the only way you get in there to even understand what we're talking about is two is one. Otherwise, you're in your own world. You are separate. You are tracking your own experience. You're having your own thoughts. You're having your own sense of things.
Right,
That's what people are doing.
right.
And there's no way to enter into what I'm pointing to if you don't, like, you and I come inside together and that we end up like kind of moving through that portal.
Okay, yeah. So I was going to say, you are describing that portal that you had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
There's no
So
way.
you, it's definitely a case of choosing to move beyond the singular I self and move into unity in existence. I mean, not just in
And,
thought or, but in
and most
just
people don't know how to do it. I mean, the truth is I can't go into a unified state with you if you don't want to go there too. Now, I can be in my own state of unity. I can be in my own state of non-dual awakening and be at one with you. And you're thinking about lunch.
so to move.
You're in your own world. You're still in your own world. I mean, it has to be mutual. It has to be entering into reality together. Everybody's like, everybody thinks this and that, and I mean, the insanity that we live in of everybody, like, who the hell knows what's true?
So I've been
And
describing it.
yeah,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you've been describing it as a. Um, I've been thinking of it as a choice, but I don't know if that's quite the thing
a
yet.
choice for what?
To move into unity with other people, or it's a decision. It's a
Well, no, you have to know how to do it. Like, this is the
right,
beginning of something.
right,
This is like when the first lobefin fish crawled out on the land
right,
and when I can't stand it in that crowded ocean anymore.
right.
And somehow he didn't die. He ended up becoming a reptile eventually. You have to be willing to actually be in that, learn how to enter into oneness and transparency. And after 5,000 years of being on your own, in your own subjective world, whatever that world is, you have to be a little bit humble and go, could somebody show me how to do this? And can somebody show me other human beings that want to go there? If
Okay.
people want to do it on their own, they're still in the old paradigm of, I'm going to do this myself.
Hmm. Yeah, it's it's
Yeah.
you're describing something so new that it takes some
Yeah.
absorbing. Yeah.
You think?
Um,
Yeah.
in your book, Evolutionary Relationships,
Yeah.
you talk about that the embodiment being something that is possible beyond the ordinary
Yeah.
individual coming together. Talk about
Yeah.
that just a little bit more.
Yeah. When you go into that state of oneness, do you know what I mean? So Peter and I had that. So his body, my body, we were always like of one body, and the way we were in the world was so alive. It was like I was in a different world.
Hmm.
It really was. I'd say to him, it's so real. Everything's so real. And he would just laugh and we would laugh and we just carried on. But it lasted a very long time, 4 years. That's not a weekend. And we weren't taking drugs and we weren't, doing, put the tongue on the roof of your mouth. We weren't doing anything. We were doing no strategies, none. And it just all kept pouring through and taking us further. So for me, given that that happened to me unbidden, I story about, wanting that, I was longing for that, but it just came, it finally came. And and I didn't do anything with what we had experienced for almost 20 years. How's that? It wasn't, you know, I was still teaching people how to work on themselves and do whatever, and, raising my son and trying to, survive. He died after 4 years, so that was hard enough. But it never occurred to me that that was for something. And then 20 years later, and I've taught so many people and I've worked with people, for so many years. I've never done anything else and I've never taken any breaks. So it was like, I just was like, well, maybe I'm supposed to retire. I don't want to work with people on their stuff anymore. Even their awakening, even beautiful people that want to awaken. Like, I'm like, not, I don't know. I'm not inspired.
Yeah,
And so I actually stopped for a year. I just thought, well, we'll see what happens. And I didn't have to work. I
right,
mean, I could have just dropped the whole thing. But then when I started, it was like, oh, maybe the world, I went to one of those cafes, where they have all the flyers where
yeah,
everybody's teaching everything. If you
right,
go to a cafe, it's
right,
like every single flyer is about some thing someone's teaching. And I just looked at it and I just went, ugh, that was like when I couldn't do it anymore.
right,
And then when we started doing what we were doing, I realized that what we had experienced was probably what was next. And I didn't know if I could bring people into that space at all.
right.
And we started to go there. But there was still a lot of like the eighth wave, the people wanting to work on themselves and stuff like that. And that kept getting in the way, to be
Right,
honest.
right.
It was
You know,
really, yeah,
I've come to believe that since we are part of the consciousness and
yeah,
intelligence and beingness of the universe itself,
yeah,
that we are, I don't know if it's the right words to say being invited, but it is our potential to reach beyond,
yeah,
to want something more, like you were describing, to want
yeah,
to move beyond the ordinary and to move to the divine.
yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
so, and it seems to me back, but I don't remember when it was, but I heard you say something to the fact that, if enough people were to participate in this, we could change the world. But
I think so. I mean, it has to be very refined, and people can't just do whatever they want. So one of the things that in my experience of the divine is you can't do it your way. You have to pay attention to what is being called forward. And in the eighth wave, where everybody's doing, this and this and this, people tend to think they know more than they do, and they think they can do it their way. And that they have to get over that. You have to listen for what really works and have a certain kind of impeccability.
in a
That's what
sense,
that's what we have with our 70 people, and then we've got another 90 that practice on global,
so
so
you're saying, in a sense, at some level, you have to give up the self and become a part of a bigger self.
yeah, absolutely. And it's really, I mean, when you as you're in that groping, because it's a journey. It's not like
Right.
here, it's like a whole journey. It's so beautiful. And you're so, talk if you've ever studied what do they call it? Secure attachment. Secure attachment is very desirable. This is like so far beyond secure attachment. Like you're in a world where it feels so safe because people aren't functioning from that human survival place.
Mhm.
You can be really close to somebody and have everything be wonderful, and then they can just turn on you.
Right.
It can just fall apart and be really nasty. Do you know what I mean? And everyone knows that one.
So in the place you're talking about, you are part of a whole that is, I don't know if guided is even the right word, but it is that you're moving together, uh, you're sharing
Yeah,
consciousness, you're participating in the divine is probably
yeah,
what I'm hearing.
yeah. And discovering, like, I've worked with, like, what are the foundational pieces that people need to be committed to in order to still be very imperfect humans, because we are. We're not born 100 years from now, unfortunately. And basically, there's a way in that makes it possible for us to go there. And you have to learn how that works, because this is at the beginning of something.
Right?
People think, oh, I know, and just do this, or and you don't realize that it's got holes everywhere for the ego to come in and make all kinds of trouble.
So you've talked, I've heard you say some words
Yeah,
about moving moving beyond personal development and
yeah.
into a new stage of you. I think you call it
Beyond post, yeah,
post.
post-personal.
Yeah. Uh, but is there more that you can share about that into moving into, what I'm hearing is that it sounds wonderful. It sounds
It
like
is.
the biggest shift that we could possibly make for ourselves to experience a whole new world, experience uh, our own potential to greater fullness, etc. So it
Mhm.
sounds, like
Yeah.
why would we not want that?
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to dedicate, you have to remember you have 5,000 years of being a certain way. That's that isn't 2 years.
Right?
That's called being a human 1.0. And I think the people that at least come to me, like that come into my world, are people who, um, you know who the mother and Sri Aurobindo,
Yes.
who they are. Okay,
Well,
so
I've heard about her from you.
yeah, so they
Yes.
are two very enlightened, incredibly awakened, and also worldly successful people, who both were dead by 1970, I guess. Um, and one of the things what was her quote? Oh, wait, I can read it to you. Hold on. It's my favorite quote. And she's not your typical, divine, saying all kinds of lofty things. Like she'll even say like things are useless. And, she was an amazingly powerful woman. But she basically said, wait, how do I make this smaller? Oh, there I go. Okay, hold on. All right. So here's the quote, my favorite quote. And this is really the core, like the people that really want to go deeper. This is the perfect, sort of flag. She says, when the two are one in something else, that will be it. That something else is undoubtedly our next body, but we must build that body. It is not going to drop from heaven ready-made. So the directions that I got from the beginning was, the only thing I heard was like a single a single saint, a human being that's a saint individually, was not the scale that we need on the planet. It's better, way better than nothing, but we needed like a large scale saint. That was the only thing I could come up with. And that is the body of human beings as one in the ninth wave, is that large scale emanation where the development is happening.
Yeah,
And I don't know. I'm just groping along, like I don't know. I just know I know to build that. And because I used to lead groups with 200, 300 people every night of the week when I worked for Werner, for 12 years. I
right.
mean, and even if you're an idiot, you figure out all the which ways groups can go wrong.
I was less yesterday.
Yeah.
I produced a new episode of my podcast, and in it, I was reading from the book Conversations with God, Book 4, Awaken the Species. You may be familiar with it or not, but
Wow.
God was saying in that section that I was reading that we, all of the consciousness is in everything, and uh, the existence and what's in the world is coming together in wholes and greater wholes and greater wholes,
Mhm.
and it takes direction from what we could call the soul, or when we get to sentient beings, we can not only tap into our soul but something greater, in
Mhm.
the soul of the oversoul or the one soul. And when we align with that, we are moved to be part of something greater. It's like embodying, we become cells in something bigger.
Right.
We are the cells of something bigger.
Right.
And it's kind of what I just heard you describing.
Yeah. The only thing is mentally knowing that is not going to take you there.
Right.
And part of what has to get moved beyond, as you enter into that sort of wholeness together is moving beyond the mind, moving
Mhm.
into um, it's a different kind of embodiment and consciousness. It's not seated in the instincts. So the sexual, social, and self-preservation instincts that are in animals and in people that drive us, that has to fall away. Part of the shift, just to throw something in there, is that evolution has to be considered. It's not like this is the eternal knowledge and it was always like this and we're just returning
Right.
to the beginning. Like, no, it's actually not like that. It's not.
It's not
That's the,
fixed in any way.
well, no, those are the ancient teachings and the
Yeah.
hama hama, it's not that. It's not that, but it's not that. There is something entirely new occurring. Like if I was the divine, I'd be insulted if everybody thought, I'd created it all and now you're just discovering it. Like, come on, like really? There's nothing entirely new. So part of what's new, what's happening right around now, is that instead of learning through experience, right? We learn through experience. We experience
Right.
things, we discover things, we grow, we forgive
Right.
ourselves. Is where we're headed is to actually have awareness create our experience. So there's also not about free will. Free will, if you were a great sports, like you were doing crazy sports, free will would kill you way too slow.
Right.
And free will right now, and I'm sure you can relate to this, with all of what's going on in the digital world and
Right.
everything is everything. You're asked to make so many choices every second. You want to shoot somebody. It's like,
Right.
make another choice, make another choice. And now what do you want? Now what do you want? You don't want to watch this? It's like, it's constant. And free will goes away.
Mhm.
Orchestration comes in.
Yes. So
Free will is about you. It's about you and your agenda and your goals and what you're choosing. all that's all part of what's been going on up till
Yeah.
now and will go on for, billions of people. That's not going to change. But there's got to be a little group, like some people that are going, wait a minute,
Yes.
there's something else.
And what you're describing is, in a way, it's beyond concepts, and
It is.
concepts and being in the mind really can hold us back. And so I hear you
Yeah.
describing we're moving more into a fuller state of awareness and being, in which the whole is evolving and guiding the whole.
Yes. Very good. That was good. Yeah.
Yes, and
Like
that,
there's a flow, there's something, I said to a couple of people, there's like everything needs to be touched. Like when you're in this state, everything has to be kind of touched and sourced, and you're like coming from something that's flowing, that's happening. And if you turn around and think about it, you lose it.
yeah. You said something a few minutes ago that I think is also very important, and that is that um, what I call the one consciousness of the universe is, we can say it's purposefully evolving, but it is
It
it
seems to
is
be,
it
seems
is
to be.
itself exploring into the evolutionary
Yeah,
process. And that's very
yeah,
significant. That is incredible,
yeah,
because if
yeah.
once you can get that idea, then um, it helps me see it. Yes.
Yeah, there's a beautiful, I wasn't prepared, but there's a beautiful quote where um I think David or something asks God, why did you create the universe? And this is misquoted, but I'll say it, say what I can remember is um that God wanted to experience, like wanted to experience sharing itself with the world. Do you know what I mean? And wanted
Mhm.
to like see
Mhm.
oneself.
Yes.
Yeah, it was kind of, I don't know.
And I think I may have heard that before. I'm not sure, but
Yeah,
who was
yeah,
it from? Do you know who it was from? No. Okay.
no.
Well, Patricia,
Anyway,
we are running out of time. So, if you find that handy, that'd be very
yeah,
interesting. But a lot of people are going to be surprised that
what?
what you're talking about is moving beyond
Yeah,
working on ourselves in the next phase. We're talking about joining in something bigger. And I find that incredibly inviting, and just such a fantastic possibility.
yeah, it's not the part that's hard to get people to get is it's not another thing. It's not another thing. A lot of people don't want to do another thing.
Right.
And this is not another thing. This is like, wait a minute, what? And so there needs to be human beings who've done a lot of, a lot of the work, no, none of us are perfect. And, we're not going to get a shiny thing on that, but we're ready to go forward.
Yeah, and evolution. The one thing I've
Yeah.
learned that applies here, I believe, is that evolution is such that it is impossible to fully imagine what that next huge step is going to
Yeah,
lead you to. And
really.
so I find that
And
quite appealing. And, I'm
yeah,
one of those who is ready to give up on the next thing,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
No, I
you
get
know,
that.
and
Totally.
move beyond. And joining in to the evolution of God itself
Yeah,
it's an amazing thing to think about. And
yeah. The
I love
oneness
I love
there.
I love what you're doing. I'm so happy that you've been here and have shared with us your wisdom on this, because
Thank you.
this is not something that someone reads it and just understands it, in an instant. Again, we're
Yeah.
talking about evolution that is taking us someplace beyond what we can understand.
Yeah. And
So,
you can't do it with the mind. You can't dominate things. You really do have to. It's almost like you have to be more of a mystic to kind of enter into this, because there's a kind of surrendered, like, take me, take me quality.
well, that
Yeah.
that kind of says it. I was going to invite you to say a few more words to kind of bring it to a summary and a
Yeah.
close from your perspective.
Well, I'll say something. It's something Carolyn appreciates, because having had the experience with Peter and living in the world, in the reality of this, and then losing him, and then being thrown back into the world of the world, because I couldn't sustain it without the other, because it's not something individual. And there's one of the things that I really got clear being with Peter, and then also just the way I experience, be in the practices with the people that are coming, the beautiful people. It's like, you're just like, it's ecstatic. I mean, there's so much energy and so much love and so much beauty. Like, you think you're going to blow up. And I realized God, if anything, if God's anything, he or she's a lover. I think he's a lover. It's a lover. It's like, that's what it is. Yeah.
That's
So
wonderful.
anyway, yeah.
Thank you so much. Tell people
Thanks
where
for
they can go
asking.
to learn more about you.
Yes. So if they just go to evolutionarycollective.com,
Okay.
there's stuff to access on the cover. We're actually about to get a brand new website, but don't wait for that. There's a lot of free videos, and actually, if you hear this, you can actually get on and find out more directly with Sherry and with Carolyn and different people. So there's a lot there. I mean, I may not make sense like in this amount of time, but there are definitely videos that might fill in the
All right.
gaps.
And I told Caroline that I would mention for you that you have a fairly new quiz that you've made
Yeah,
available that people can use to
yeah,
identify their how they relate to evolution and
yeah. It's
but
very cool. Like, you're a seeker or you're a bridge. Yeah. I mean, if they just go to the website, evolutionarycollective.com, and that should be right at the front of it. And
all right.
there's lots of free stuff that you
Yeah.
can at least
The
find out.
the the link, yeah, they should be able to find a button. The link is evolutionarycollective.com/orientation quiz. And
Okay.
I took the quiz myself,
Oh,
and
what are you?
I'm a seeker, which is really what I expected,
Yeah.
uh,
Duh,
because
duh.
I've always been into exploring
Yeah,
spirituality and consciousness, etc. And so I'd love to learn
totally.
more about what the others are. But
Yeah.
yeah, take advantage of that, listeners. And thank you for being here with us today. Thank you again,
Thank you.
Patricia. This has been very enlightening. And for the audience, have a great day and
Thank,
a great life.
thank you.